Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for your weather report with Joey only. It's the first one of the month of April here. And today, well, the weather is actually going to get a little bit better. It was pretty windy this morning, pounding wind, but that's because change is happening, and sometimes change manifests itself in very windy ways. Okay, speaking of wind, speaking of nicer weather, there are some fires burning today in British Columbia, wildfires. I mean, this isn't, classified out of control, but nothing crazy is actually going on. So let's not panic because this, fires do happen in the spring, especially the grass is dry, things are dry, it's windy. Okay? However, that doesn't mean we can't take it as a sign for things to come. So let's have a look at Joey Only's second fire forecast of the year for British Columbia, Western Canada, and first one for the month of April. Let's go!
This is bad news.
My God.
Falling out right now.
Anything could happen.
Wow.
I'll watch the video later.
Feel the heat.
I need more legs, I need water.
Ain't dry mopping this.
So this is the Facebook group that I run here. Above average temperatures expected in April. See your fire weather forecast coming on my channel. So here's the, looks like on Southern Ontario, looking very, very hot for sure. Up through Eastern Canada, up in the north, so everywhere, basically, everywhere, except for this one blob sort of up in the northern part of BC. Everywhere, including BC, is looking like it's going to have somewhat above the norm, at least between what was normal from 1991 until 2020. So blue tells us temperatures will be below normal. Gray is that temperatures will be near normal. So really, the only place in Canada that could be near normal is like sort of up near the Spetzizi Plateau or kind of not far from Telegraph Creek in British Columbia. Yellow to red is likelihood that temperatures will be above normal. White means uncertainty with the temperature trend this month. So we got a little bit of white in Southern Alberta. No one really knows. A little bit of white in BC. Uncertainty. Yesterday was April Fool's Day. So here we are in the province of British Columbia. Wildfire danger rating, April 1st, 2024. I don't think much has changed since then. But you see there's a moderate risk in northern British Columbia. We have moderate risks in some of these spots throughout. There's a very low risk in a couple regions. That's kind of odd. That looks kind of sort of like here in Wells. I kind of hate this map because it never shows you actual locations of anything. This is just an example of how Canadian weather maps and weather products that our government put out routinely fall short of giving me what I really want. Okay? When you look at maps that are put out by American weather agencies, National Oceanographic, Aerospace Agency, the Weather Office, Weather Service, just all you need on here is like, here's where Prince George is, here's where Kamloops is, here's where Nelson is. And here's where Fort St. John is. You put like 5 towns in the map, then suddenly the human mind can kind of make sense of where things. So we do have, look at this. This is April 2nd, and this isn't a bad looking fire danger map, but people are sitting there saying to me like, well, how come there's a fire ban on already? Well, the things are dry, and in some places they're going to get drier quickly now, and we'll look at the forecast and tell you why. And large sections of the province are already moderately at risk to burn. This is like a May or June looking sort of forecast, okay? And we do have in British Columbia some fires that are happening right now. So you got all these green dots, basically all represent holdover fires from last year. Holdover fire, Big Creek. I'll just give you an example. Last updated in 28th. Fire is based on last known Omineca River. So, there's not much to say. These are holdover fires. I've heard people be like, how come we're not going out and putting them out right now? Like, come on, people. Quit finding reasons to bitch. So here is where I ended my fire season last year at 0280, G80280, 619,000 hectares. Crazy size, 136 kilometers southeast of Fort Nelson, 158 north of Fort St. John, Blueberry River First Nations, Doig River, Prophet First Nations. This is where my season started last year. Good chance this is where my season begins Ended last year. There's a good chance when my season begins and ends this year as well. So you've seen the fire danger, and you can see these holdover fires are smoldering under the surface. And people like say, "Well, how come you don't go put them out?" Because do you understand how hard it would be to find these holdover fires right now? You don't get it because you've never done it. You just think it's that easy. Just go put them out. Yeah, well, the thing is hiding underground. And then every once in a while, it wakes up and shows a puff of smoke. You can go put that puff of smoke out. You think you got it? That's not it. There's 50 other little tiny embers sitting there, puffing underground. You don't know where they are. It's not that easy. You know, and if we had to start raising taxes in British Columbia to afford all the firefighting initiatives that people think we should be paying for, people would complain about that too. So there's got to be a nice balance between having a budget that's realistic, actioning fires that's realistic, making use of our crews in a way that's realistic. We can't do everything, okay? So here on the ArcGIS map right now, you can see some of these spots are showing a little bit of heat today. So I would almost guarantee, I'm not going to guarantee. This could be like a flare from a natural gas pipe or something like that. Possible fire, it says. Yeah, actually, that probably is in the Donnie Creek fire. So there you go. Pretty likely that a couple of these are actually fire dots. This on the east side of the highway, I'm a little less positive of. But this guy here, that looks definitely like fire spots. So there's some areas putting a little bit of heat out today because it's dry and it's windy. And we do know that somewhere near Chetwynd right now, some kind of a fire is happening. And I'm not going to guess if that dot is it or not, because I don't know. I'm sure I could find the information somehow. I'm not going to bother today. The point I'm trying to make is we do have these holdover fires. They are out there. So here's the telling thing. Here's the telling thing right now. April 2nd, and we have all the Peace with no snow, almost all the Caribou with no snow. So these are all central areas where, you know, it's not like shocking that there's no snow here, because those are the kinds of places that are I mean, obviously it would be shocking if the mountains had no snow and there was lots in the valley, in the plateau, right? We're not here to talk about how normal or unnormal this setup is, or we're just really here to talk only about how much snow is actually out there. And you look at the snow depth for, you know, up in the glaciers outside of Wells here, up in the middle of, you know, just this way is some fantastic mountain scenery. I'm sorry, I've had my head too big for like the whole time. I'm just going to remove my head altogether for a while. That'll make up for the fact that I totally screwed this video up by not removing my head for a certain length of it. But I think you got the point of what I was trying to say anyways in the last one. But here in Wells, you can see, well, here's Keithley Creek. So that up here's Yanks Peak. So here's some of the biggest snow where we would normally expect to see it in the Wells area, between, you know, these mountains that sort of sit between us and Likely. 80 centimeters is nothing, okay? You look at Wells, what do we got here in Wells? 30 centimeters. Honestly, 30 centimeters is an overestimation. This is probably the least amount of snow I've ever seen at this time in April. Today, the driest air in BC is still sitting around 50%, right? So we don't have the conditions that really will lead to active burning. So even if there's a little bit of fire going on near Chetwynd today, if that's true, don't be that concerned, okay? It's not that crazy. So now we look at drought monitoring, drought intensity, 0 to 40 centimeters. We're gonna go deeper because that's what's telling us how bad is it actually. So here's the thing, is that we are expecting La Nina to come this year. It's still expected to happen. It's quite likely that it could happen this summer. So, you know, my concern is, go back to my last fire forecast video, my concern is that we're going to have an early fire season. Things are going to jump off pretty quickly. My expectation is that we're going to hit into possibly a rainier pattern in June. Suppose we came full into La Nina, that doesn't mean there's not going to be fire activity. If you think about 2021, we were fully in La Nina. And then we had a heat dome that was crazy. But if you also think about 2021, most of the fires we were working that summer were a result of that small window in June when that heat dome came at the end of June, right? It was like, bam, hot, fires go for a run, fire explodes, and then we're up there like basically, trying to rein it in, mop it up, tighten it up for the next. And then sometime around August 12th, it got hot and windy again. Fires woke up, went for another run, only lasted a couple days, and things started to settle down again. So 2021 remembered as a really bad season, and it was, but really we're talking about two events where the weather really came on side for an active fire pattern, right? Whereas last year we were on side for that active fire pattern for a lot of the summer. Okay, so we'll skip ahead to the 10th of April. Let me just look ahead. We see from Vernon to Williams Lake, Prince George, we up to Williston, Mackenzie, into the Peace, over to the Alberta side, across the Boreal Forest, Fort McMurray, high level. These places are looking at extreme drought conditions as we come into April. And what does this remind you of? It reminds me of 2016. Fort McMurray had a big fire. The whole fucking place just about burned down. Much of it did. Started with a very dry spring like this. And then we had that sort of wave of heat and dry air that kind of hit there in the beginning of May. You started getting that 30-degree temperatures and getting below 30% humidity. Bam, fire woke up, went for a run. Fort McMurray was almost done. Same kind of thing happened last spring, very dry start, and then we had hot days, some pretty hot, I don't think it was quite 30s, but it was quite close to it in Fort St. John. I know we were up there, and it was quite summer-like at times, actually. It was very weird. So that's my concerns, that we're going to have an early start, that things will pick up pretty quickly and burn, and then we'll get to that January, and maybe things will settle down. Also in past fire seasons, though, where we've had the La Nina or these transitions, we've had more fire starts than people would usually expect to see. So don't think that even if we have a down season, we're not going to have a lot of starts, right? So, we look at how many fires started and then compare that to how many hectares actually burned. We looked at 1991 in my last fire forecast. Had a lot of starts, above average number of starts, but way below, only 20,000 hectares burned. Kind of the point behind that all is that if we have the jet stream, if you have this jet stream and it's pushing straight into BC like it kind of is right now, what that tends to do is create thunderstorm activity, right? So you get a lot more precipitation coming across, hitting the dry air in the province, a lot more thunderstorms, a lot more fire starts will happen because of thunderstorm activity. As you can see, so we're talking about fire weather. You go down in the States right now, this is some really bad, anything, a match, an ember, anything goes off down there and whoosh. As you look at British Columbia, our fire spread danger is fairly low and fairly low up north. So as I was saying, like we do have some ability for fires to burn right now. How much is it going to spread? Well, you need to have fine fuels that are moist, and that is something we do not have yet. But here, look at this. You go down into the United States, into Washington and into Oregon, you start seeing that 6% fine fuel moisture pretty quickly, right? So that's a concerning thing. So yeah, a little bit of data for southern BC. That's about all right now, and you expect that pretty soon that will change. And if you don't believe me, here's the Weather Network temperature pattern April 2024, above seasonal, more or less mirroring what Environment Canada said. Precipitation outlook below seasonal, below normal for most of British Columbia coming into April. Well, anyways, that's our sort of first look at April's fire weather forecast, and I should have more for you if anything changes much this month. I made the last fire weather forecast. Of course, it's early in the season, not much change, so I gave you kind of a long range outlook. I'm going to kind of double down still and say kind of the same things I was saying last time, which is probably going to have an early start, probably going to be some fire activity in the spring. Could see a January this year, could see that La Nina show up and sort of change our dominant story from being dry to more wet. So, I mean, really, we're not going to know until it happens. That's the way it is. Please hit like, share, subscribe. I'll do my best to keep you knowledgeable as I am able to. Okay, bye for now.